Peace and love, everyone. Welcome to my channel. If you're new, please like and subscribe. And I am so delighted to be with you this evening. Happy Monday, Moon Day. It's already June. Summer is almost here, and the great summer solstice will be here before we know it. So I want to say peace and great blessings to everyone out there. Thank you for tuning in and joining me this evening. And tonight we are talking about one of my special areas of interest, your chakra system. And that's why I'm sitting other way, sitting in front of my chakra banner here. So to help drive the point home even further. So we're going to be talking about your chakra health, how to know if your chakras need healing. Now, first of all, what are chakras? Chakras are is an ancient Sanskrit word for wheels, and they resemble wheels of energy. Like swirling wheels of energy. Um, in the ancient Egyptian language, I read that they called them the arit, but there was many different names for chakras, but the more common one that we all use is the Sanskrit, which comes from ancient India, and that is the word chakra. So that's what chakras mean. They mean wheels, and they are wheels of energy. Your human body has many different parts. We know that. We know there's many different systems. There's there's the nervous system, there's the digestive system, the circulatory system, there's the reproductive system, there's also uh, pulmonary, respiratory. If I think I already said that, but all of these different systems work together synergistically to help the physical body function to its optimal best. But you also, as a being of light and a spiritual being, you also have spiritual system, and the chakra system is just one part of what makes up your spiritual body, if you will. And the chakras are energy centers. And energy is something that we can measure it in certain ways, but oftentimes some people don't see energy. And so the energy systems of the body, the major centers of though where the energy is concentrated are the chakras. Chosen one, what's good, beloved? Peace and love to you. Thank you for joining us this evening. All is well, and I'm willing the same for you. So, give me a shout out. Let me know where you're tuning in from, like what city, what state. And so, just like you have centers in your body that work synergistically together, your chakra system or your spiritual, the energies also function together in harmony. And we want them to function together to be so that you can be at your optimal best. Um, we know, those of you who watch my channel, you know that we are not just this physical form, your mind, body, spirit. You are not just flesh and blood, but you also have a soul and a spirit, which is the eternal part of you, which is the energetic, if you will. It's just a different aspect of you, just to keep it simple. It's just a different aspect to you. And so your chakra system is a part of that. It's a part of your spiritual self, if you will. And there are many chakras. Most people only know about the seven major chakras, which are um, located in a line along the spine, and from the crown chakra to the third eye chakra to the throat chakra, the heart, the solar plexus, And then there's below the solar plexus or below your navel, you have actually what's called the navel or sacral chakra. And then you have your root chakra, which is located at the base of the spine. And those are the 7 major chakras, some of the larger ones in the in the body, but you have many other chakras that are smaller, may not be, and some people may not be as noticeable, and those chakras also exist. And then you have some that exist above your crown. um there's many of them. I'm learning about new ones all the time. And the planet itself has a chakras, believe it or not. There's certain places on the earth that have high concentrations of energy, high concentrations of spiritual energy, and these places exist throughout the planet. In fact, Mount Shasta in California is one. That's the first one that came to mind. I think there's one in Peru, if I'm not mistaken. I have to look it up again. But all of these places have high concentrations of energy and high spiritual energy, and oftentimes a lot of magnetism. And they draw people to these places. And a lot of these places were considered sacred sites by the ancestors. A lot of these places that we call the earth chakras actually have ancient temples or other ancient megalithic structures or monuments built on those sites or near those sites, because of the energy that exists there. And people were aware of these energy centers and the ley lines that connect these energy centers. And so that's where they would choose to build certain holy temples or shrines, etc. These were places where sometimes people did annual pilgrimages on auspicious occasions such as the summer, the solstices or the equinoxes or several, other special events. They would go to these places because of the heightened energy in those spaces. So if anyone tells you that, chakras don't exist or whatever they say, this is not true, this is false. And not only do humans, people have chakras, but the earth itself has them as well. They're energy centers. And so as we are a part of the earth and the earth is a part of us, we also have them too. And many of you, if you've ever had energy work done or healing, Chosen One said, I'm in the rack. Are you saying Iraq? If you've ever had energy work done on yourself, or if you do energy work, you'll know that the hands also have energy centers and chakra points. The tips of the fingers, the palm of the hand, the sole of the feet, each toe. Those are just some of the extra ones. Oh, Chicago, Chi-Town, yes. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you, Chosen One. So all of those are additional ones that we have. And any place in the body where there's a high concentration of energy, there's probably chakra points there as well. Like I said, there's so many of them. I studied Ayurvedic massage years ago, and they taught us about marma points, which are energy centers, and there's 108 marma points in the body. And the energy centers, or those marma points, I would say maybe they're small chakras. They function very much the same way. And so I think that there's just many of them, but we focus more on the major ones, which are the ones along the spine, the 7 that I just mentioned. How do we know when your chakras need healing? If you've never had a chakra healing, then you definitely need one. The first time I had it, I was like, wow, I didn't even know all this was going on with me. And so I learned how to share that blessed gift with other people. And if you've never had one, then you definitely need one. So that's one way you know you need the healing. If you've ever experienced any kind of imbalance, whether it's trauma or stress, illness, physical, mental, emotional imbalances, whatever, then um you definitely need a chakra healing. Chosen one is asking the question, what does it consist of? The chakra healing is a form of energy work that involves deep breathing, exercise, and you focus on one chakra at a time and releasing the things that cause the chakras, that particular chakra to become imbalanced or blocked. I'm gonna get to that in just a minute. So the chakras healing, to know that you need one, number one, and each chakra corresponds to specific organs in the body, and it also corresponds to emotions. For example, if you're someone, fear can cause the root chakra to become blocked or stagnant. And before I go to the emotions, let me go to what I mean by blocked or stagnant. And then the chakra system, the wheels are spinning and in a healthy state. So when you're in a healthy, balanced state, the chakras are spinning, they're open, the energy is flowing freely throughout your body and around your body. Okay. When you experience stress, trauma, and it doesn't have to be, acute trauma. It can be not enough sleep. It could, just physical worn down, but things like trauma, PTSD, um, illness, depression, things like that can cause the chakra system to slow down, and it will not function at its best. And what will happen is there will become blockages in these energy centers. So if you've ever experienced acupuncture where they put the needles in the meridians along the body, and when they insert those needles, let's say if you have numbness or pain in your shoulder and they'll put the needles in that shoulder along the meridians, it unblocks the energy and allows it to flow and improves the circulation. So the chakra system works very much like that, but instead of it being physical, it's more spiritual. So the spiritual energy, the subtle energy is allowed to flow more freely once you unblock the chakras. So when they're not functioning in their healthy state and they're not spinning, they can become blocked or inactive. I like to say they become inactive, and it will show up and manifest in your physical life as well. For example, a person who's experiencing things like PTSD, or they've been in a heightened state of trauma, or they're hyper vigilant, they're full of fear and anxiety, that can cause the root chakra to become blocked or inactive. And some people live years like that. They're, if they live in a toxic situation, or a situation where there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of violence around them, or just uncertainty, like they're moving all the time, they don't have a chance to ground themselves and to get comfortable somewhere. They faced a lot of evictions or a lot of movement. a lot of instability, that can cause your root chakra to be inactive or blocked because of this. You're not feeling grounded, you're not feeling secure, you're constantly moving. It's all this uncertainty and confusion, and you're not feeling stable. And when people say, I don't feel grounded, or I need to go outside to touch the grass, I need to ground myself, when people say things like that, that is actually the root chakra that they're feeling it needs to be it needs balancing. And one of the ways that a lot of people balance it is by being in nature, sitting on the ground, laying on the ground, walking barefoot, touching the trees, the grass, spending time outdoors, doing deep breathing. Things like that help you to ground yourself. And when people say, I need to be grounded, I need to ground myself, they're actually talking about the root chakra is feeling imbalance, and they need to balance it. So that's just one example. Another example of needing chakra work, or knowing when you need your chakra to be healed, when people say their heart is broken, or I have a broken heart, or so and so has a broken heart. I have heard of a lot of instances of people who suffered something really traumatic, a traumatic loss, and a grief. And the grief was so bad that they passed away shortly after that, or they never got over that grief. A woman I know personally, maybe about 15 years ago, her no, it was longer than that. About 15 years ago, her mother passed away. But before her mother passed, about 10, 20 years before her mom passed away, her brother was unalived by someone. They never solved it. It happened in another country, actually. They never solved it, and they think he was unalived in a botched robbery. They think someone was trying to rob him, and things just, it was a very unfortunate, horrible situation. And her brother was unalived, and left side of the road. It was real tragic. So her mother went into a deep state of grief, and she never recovered from that. And that's an example of someone that's heart chakra is in need of healing. And she, not only did her mother go into a deep state of grief, her health declined. She got really ill, and she stayed ill for like 15 years or something like that. From the time her son passed until she passed, she was sick. Her health got progressively worse over the years. My friend told me, she said her mother just got worse and worse, and then eventually her mother became bedridden at some point. Her legs began to swell. She was in just very bad shape. And then, she transitioned as well, but she never recovered from the loss of her son. And so that's an example, a great example of someone needing all over chakra healing, but definitely the heart. Many of the conditions that I see in people and people have come from the heart chakra. It's very delicate, and it's one of the easiest to damage and the hardest to repair. Now, all of the chakras are significant and important, but the heart chakra, I think because of the way of the world, I see a lot of that. And you see a lot of that around us. We see a lot of grief. We see a lot of people in sorrow, not recovering from certain losses, not being the same. And you hear people say things like that, like they'll say grandma was never the same after, her sister passed, or her mom, or grandpa or whatever, and then you hear stories about, you know, a couple, like one will pass and then the other one will pass away weeks later, or sometimes even days later or months later after someone passed, because the grief is just that you know, that difficult or whatever. And many people who have unhealed trauma, and you know, whether it's childhood trauma or whatever, a lot of that has an impact on the heart chakra and their ability to love and receive love can be affected by that. So that's another example of knowing when you need your chakras need healing. Chosen one asked the question, which chakra do I need to heal from me and my mother's bad relationship? If you and her have a bad relationship, it will probably has had, depending on what the circumstances it is, has probably impacted all of them, because I don't work on just one. We do all of it. So because they work together. Um, if it's a bad relationship, it if it started early in life, it's probably had an impact on your root chakra, definitely, and your feeling of being accepted, or depending on the nature of the bad relationship. I don't know yet, you know, until I, you know, talk to you and share with me, but it probably had some impact on your ability to feel grounded or secured or accepted, or a sense of belonging. If it's been a painful relationship, it's probably had an impact on your heart chakra. Definitely, if there's been some verbal abuse or verbal, you know, what's the other word? Manipulation, then it's probably had an impact on the throat chakra. um, if it damaged your self-esteem in any way, it's probably impacted the solar plexus chakra, which would be this one. And if it's something that has had an impact on your sense of how you allow yourself to receive, you know, love and pleasure, or how you express it, that probably has had an impact on your sacral chakra. And then, you know, your third eye, you know, depending on how deep the damage is and how it's been done, how it's impacted the others, because you can't, some you is not typical to have one highly developed one chakra and the rest are not. So you want them all to be working synergistically and in harmony with one another. And you said lack of motherly love and verbal abuse. Thank you also, chosen one, for sharing this, because some other people may have similar questions and they don't want to ask them, or you know, they don't feel comfortable talking about it. Lack of motherly love and verbal abuse. Yes, that would definitely have an impact on you, your entire being. The lack of love may have come from her have needing to have her chakra system healed. She definitely needing healing, because not wanting to give you that love, which should come innately from a mother to child, but it doesn't always. Unfortunately, this is just the reality, and a lot of times that came from how they experienced life, or their own journey. You know, some people say hurt people hurt other people. And a lot of times, people who've experienced trauma or unhealed trauma and are in need of healing, they don't even recognize that they are in need of healing. And they will pass that on um, to someone else. And some people feel, because this is what they say, they feel that the way they were raised or the way people handled them is the proper way for them to raise their children, and the way proper way for them to handle others. And we should know that that's not always the case. Just because people treated you a certain way doesn't mean, and if you knew it wasn't right, if it didn't feel right to you, then you have the responsibility to stop that kind of behavior and not repeat the pattern and repeat the cycle. And years ago, I went to a parenting class, and they said that the way you raise your children will affect the next 7 generations in your family, in your bloodline. And then I don't know if that's a fact or not, but then when I heard that, I thought about it, and I thought about the people I grew up around and the others that I observed, with friends and their families. And a lot of times it, if you look at where the family trauma or comes from, you'll see that it came from generations ago, and it just was passed down. Like, it's, like your genetics and your DNA was passed down. A lot of times family trauma or bad behaviors or unhealthy behavior systems, thought systems are passed down from person to person. um all of what you're saying, actually, yes, I can relate. And yes, it is unfortunate, but it's up to us to make sure that we heal and get the love that we deserve and we need, so that we don't walk around hurt and abusing ourselves and abusing others. And unfortunately, a lot, I think I did another um talk about this maybe about 2 weeks or so ago, how the difference between self-care and self-love. And some people, I growing up, I never heard anybody talk about self-care. I thought taking care of yourself meant, you ate well, you got your hair done, you got your nails done. I didn't even know what men did to take care of themselves. So I just, get some extra sleep, take a vacation once a year, something like that. But that's not self-care. Self-care is something that you do for yourself on a daily basis that help you stay balanced and secure and just well taken care of. Some of us take better care of our house plants, some of us take better care of our pets and other people, but we are the last on our list. And a lot of times we ignore and neglect our needs and don't take care of ourselves properly, which is not good. Um, Let me see. But I'm about to go on a 2 month, mostly dry and liquid fasting mixed with a few hours of grounding throughout the day. Hopefully, this helps. Yes, that will help. Definitely fasting. Fasting helps purify you and helps with the releasing of um, old toxic waste, as well as, if you set the intention, and if you're also fasting from the outside world and influences, you can also purify the thoughts and mind through liquid fasting, and definitely a few hours of grounding throughout the day. That is essential for your wellness and for healing. And if you want, my email is in the banner and the website as well. So you need additional help or additional support with the process, just let me know. Um, we were talking about how when the chakras need healing. So um, tr- trauma, stress, illness, all of that can cause the chakra systems to become the chakras to become blocked, and the system will be inactive and won't be the energy won't be flowing in a healthy state. And so if you have different aspects of your life or health challenges that you're facing, that there's is related to one of the chakras. um, your thoughts, your emotions, energy, emotion has an impact on them. And also what happens to you physically has an impact. Your life is a reflection of what's going on with the body and your chakra system, your body and your spirit. And a lot of times we try to compartmentalize different parts of our life. This is the physical, this is the mental, this is the spiritual. It's all combined, and it all works together in harmony. And think of your body as a complex machine, if you will, and your energy system or your spirit is also even much more complex. And sometimes there's blockages in your body where things are not feeling its best, or there may be some pain or some numbness or stagnation or swelling. And then you do things to release it so that the energy starts to flow and the body starts to heal. You have to do the same thing with the spirit. No, you're not taking up any of my chat space. I appreciate it, and I look forward to supporting people in any way that I can. And then sometimes people um, you know give me very good information and advice in the chat, and that's what the chat is there for. It's for us to have to interact and engage with one another. So never feel like you're taking up my chat space, and I appreciate you being considerate. So all of this is important with the chakras. The upper chakras deal with um higher consciousness, if you will. For example, the third eye chakra, or some people call it the first eye, which is the pineal gland. That's the organ that is superimposed by that chakra, and it deals with a higher consciousness. And it's called the first eye or the third eye because this is considered the location of your spiritual eye, or that place where you can see beyond the physical. Being aware, being clairvoyant, those are all characteristics of a healthy third eye or first eye. And if yours is blocked, you may experience not being able to see beyond the physical. Your dream state may be a little sketchy or blurry. Many people say that I don't remember my dreams, or they say I have dreams, but they're not clear. And when I wake up, so all of those are signs and symptoms that you may have a blocked third eye chakra, or is inactive. And let me see. Oh, thank you, chosen one. Please do. Please share the content with friends and family. And the more supporters, the better. And don't forget to like and subscribe too. But make sure that when you are on your healing journey, or if you're doing your self-care, make sure that you are checking the emotions and the feelings that you're feeling, and how it relates to other aspects of your life and your health, dealing with your chakra system. A lot of us don't learn about this in life unless you study Ayurvedic medicine or massage, or like I did, or if you study um, Eastern philosophies, yoga. You'll learn about these things, but it's very important. And although in the West they may not talk about it much, you don't hear much about it at all. In fact, is still very significant. And there are many different names for the chakras, and some people may not call them such, but they know that they exist. And this is something that they worked on. A lot of times, folks in some cultures wore jewelry or crystals, or some people even in some cultures had tattoos placed on certain parts of their body that corresponded to those energy centers. And this was one of their ways of acknowledging them, or protecting them, or activating them. Um, Chosen One says, I think my third eye is a little overstimulated because I overthink. That could very well be, and that could also be a sign that the crown chakra, which connects to higher consciousness, is overstimulated. And overstimulated overthinking could be a sign of anxiety, which would be which would correspond to the root chakra. Like if you have to overthink all the time because you've always had to make a lot of decisions for yourself, or if you're overthinking because of anxiety or fear, or if you're overthinking because you feel you always had to, because maybe you were the one that had to make a lot of decisions. It had to be independent at a young age. Maybe you were the more responsible one, or you had to be responsible for yourself. All those factors can be responsible for why you overthink. It just depends. Let me see. But my dreams are very vivid, and I always feel good after waking up from most of my dreams. That's good. Vivid dreams is a good sign, because the dream world is a part of our lives, just like the experiences that we're having in the physical. And very vivid is a good sign that you probably don't have your third eye, maybe, or your higher chakras are probably working well, or maybe more developed than some of the others. And you always feel good about waking up from most of your dreams. That's good. And make sure you write them down, because they're timeless messages. So I would recommend having a dream journal to write them down. Write down the date and just, a brief description of the dream, and keep that, because sometimes the messages or the guidance will make sense later if it's not making sense at that time. All right, so the chakra health, a lot of times organs or issues that we're having in the body will manifest in a blocked or stagnant or inactive chakra. For example, the example that I gave about, the dream state and the heart chakra and some of the others. A person who is has low self-esteem, or feels a lot of guilt for, certain things, or just has a hard time staying committed to something, especially when it comes to themselves. They have a hard time committing to pursuing their goals or their dreams. That may be a sign that the solar plexus is inactive. And the solar plexus deals with our self-esteem, our self-worth, our what we do for ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. A lot of that comes from that place, and it can sometimes become blocked. And so if you're someone that struggles with your sense of self-esteem, your self-worth, if you have a hard time staying committed to things that you do for you, if your willpower is low and not strong, that would be an indicator that you need to do some work on that. All right, so we can continue maybe at another day, have another discussion about the chakra health. Um, but I don't want to spend the whole hour talking about it. But if you had any more questions, I can answer them. And some of the things that you can do to maintain your chakra health definitely is meditation and deep breathing. Deep breathing, when you breathe correctly, you're actually saturating your body with oxygen, and you are helping to improve your circulation, helping the blood flow in the body. A lot of us, because of conditioning, we have a bad habit of breathing, shallow breathing, just breathing from the chest. When you breathe deeply and you take oxygen into the body, you're actually breathing deep and expanding your lungs and breathing and allowing that oxygen to come deeply into the abdomen. And that is what you want to do. And that also helps improve the circulation of energy and blood flow in the body. So deep breathing helps with maintaining your chakras health. You also want to practice meditation, if not daily, when you can. Meditation has many, many benefits, but one of them is to help and allow, just being still and allowing that energy to flow. Another thing you can do to maintain chakra health is spending time in nature. That not only does that help ground you and can help with the root chakra, but just being in in a natural setting, the ions in the air, in nature, the sounds, the sunlight, all of that is stimulating to your body and your mind and your spirit, and it helps you connect and soothe. It actually has a soothing effect on the body. Being outside, it helps reduce depression. If you live someplace where it's cold and you're not getting enough sunlight, you may want to frequently travel to places where it's warmer, where you can feel more at peace and being outdoors more, because nature heals. Another thing you can do to maintain your chakra health is to make sure that you get adequate rest. And because we know that a lack of sleep, not only does it cause people to be stressed out and anxious and grumpy and grouchy, but all of those emotions can have a negative impact on your overall health, which the health of the body is going to affect the health of the mind and the spirit, and vice versa. All of them are all of them work synergistically together. Make sure you eat right. Avoid, I would say, avoid the consumption of substances, whether it's alcohol and spirits or other artificial substances, controlled, isolated substances. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Those things also can cause your chakra system to become inactive. And I would say in some instances, depending on what the substance is, it can also cause things just not to function freely at all. So you want to avoid things like that, because all of that can be harmful, not only to the body, but to the mind and the spirit as well. And, if you are struggling with feeling the need to have artificial substances to help you get through the day and feel better, you're definitely in need of healing. And it's no judgment on that, but we all at some point in our lives, throughout our lives, need healing. That's just the nature of the world that we live in, and everybody at some point needs it. And we know that the healing has to come from within, and looking outside of yourself and being dependent on things outside of you to help you feel better can lead to addiction and can lead to suffering and things like that. So we don't want to be in that space and in that mental and spiritual state. You want to be able to be your greatest self, your divine self. And one way to do that is to make sure that you don't have to rely on controlled, isolated substances to feel good, to feel balanced, to feel normal, to feel happy. That all of those things you can find within. Oh, that's excellent. Chosen One shared with us, I'm 5 years clean of alcohol and MDMA. That is wonderful, wonderful. Kudos and big up to you for that, because that takes a lot of willpower and a lot of self-esteem and self-love and self-care, and just a willingness to keep yourself balanced and and strong. And because I'm sure there's times where it's been a struggle to stay clean, but you did it, and you should be very proud of yourself that it's been 5 years, and I pray that it continues to stay that way. So thank you for listening. And chosen one, please send me an email. I can put my email in the chat, and I like to hear how you doing. Make sure all is well. Yes. All right. So thank you everyone for listening this evening. I hope this was just very brief, just to give you all a better knowledge and understanding of what the chakras are. There's so much more to them than what we just talked about this evening, but this is just a basic understanding for those who don't know, or who know just a little bit, want to know a little bit more, so we can have a further discussion, more details on the chakra system. I hope this was informative and enlightening to those of you who are listening. I appreciate each and every one of you and the feedback. Thank you, chosen one, for sharing your just sharing a part of yourself. And your questions were very welcome and very informative for everyone, and I hope I did a great job of answering them for you, and I really appreciate you. So each and every one of you, I hope you all continue to have a beautiful rest of your week, and stay encouraged, stay blessed, and I'll talk to you next time. Peace and love.